hands. How many of you are scared of singing in Russian? Good. Wonderful. Is it scary? Well, of course it is. We all know it is. Because you'll know. Are you from you are from the wrong generation. You don't know who this is, yes?
I totally know who that is.
Who is this? This is Boris Bedanov and his girlfriend Natasha. You know, there's so much of why we're scared of Russia is because of the pop culture and because of the Iron Curtain, of course. And what you see is a lot of caricatures, you know. Who can forget I must break you? You know? So it's part of what you all grew up with. My favorite example of this is actually Trevor Noah, who really hits the nail on the head. It's really funny. Oh, come on. I thought it was on.
Why the accent is romantic as well.
Okay, yeah, let's start.
It's funny how every accent has its own connotation to it. You speak with a French accent, you are sexy. How are you, ladies? And then there's some accents just have no sex appeal to them at all. Like the Russian accent. There's nothing sexy about it. Everything the Russians say sounds dangerous and menacing. Doesn't matter what they say, because they've got that thing. Yes, I'm Russian, go to kill you, break you, destroy your family. Like, even if Russians say nice things, it still sounds dangerous. They still go, yes, fluffy rabbits and teddy bears. What? I realized this. I was walking through the streets of New York, and there was a Russian guy. He was walking next to me, and he happened to be on the phone, right? And it sounded like he was setting up a drug deal. And so this guy's walking next to me, and he's talking. And he switched from English, the English-Russian accent, into Russian. And it went from fear to no fear. It was the strangest thing ever. He was on the phone, and he was like, yeah, no, Vlad, don't worry. The guy's got to be at 3 o'clock, okay? You meet them, you tell me after that you got the package, we call. Don't worry. Hey, Vlad, no, listen. Vlad. Ты vais no delegates notch, yeah? Da, ты net no, ты дашь no delegates, that the gets net the dodge the nartich, what не крадешь, what не get that, watch the red, but not нет на врачнейшее, and it was the craziest thing ever. He went from like international criminal to, it was the weirdest thing, like I had no fear at all. Language just sounds like someone's playing a vinyl backwards, that's all I hear. It sounds like someone took a DJ of English and they were just there like, yeah. She's just like, yes. We go to find, don't worry, Vlad, the guy's got to be there, 3 o'clock, okay? Yeah, bring the package, don't worry about that. After that you find, you give me the call, okay? No.
Hilarious, yes? Well, he's right, you know, Russian is scary. I mean, just look at that. You know who this is? This is Tsar Boris Godunov, performed by Fyodor Shaliapin. This is actually not the real Tsar. This is the greatest Russian bass who ever lived, in the costume of Boris Godunov. I mean, of course, there's Vladimir Lenin, who is not all that not scary. And today, you know, when people ask me what country are you from, I say I'm from that country that recently purchased this country. And is trying to purchase this country one more time. Okay, no more political jokes, I promise. I promise. Is it funny? Yeah, it's actually really funny. It depends. This character, of course. Drew, my kids sometimes call me Drew. My daughter say, Dad, you're like a muffin top. You look like Drew. Now, the funny thing about Russian accent explained by Russian immigrants is very, very funny. This kid is the son of a Russian immigrant. And he explains about speaking in Russian and speaking with a Russian accent. Very funny.
Hello everyone, I am here today to teach you how to speak with a Russian accent. I am uniquely qualified for this position because I was fortunate enough to be born in a family of Russian immigrants. What makes one really sound Russian? In general, Russian sounds a lot harsher and angrier and louder. You should really only use it when you need to get a point across. Let's start with the first unique sound in a Russian accent. TH. Whether it's the or th, it's impossible to pronounce if you're Russian. For words like then or this, then, this. For words like south or north or thing, you say south, north, sing, W. Russians cannot pronounce this letter. I don't think it's even in the alphabet. Instead, they say v. So instead of wow, it's a vav. Instead of wonderful, it's a wonderful. Not where. Now, the most unique sound in a Russian accent that anyone can identify is the R sound. Russians roll their R's. Where is your car? Now, E versus I. There is no difference for a Russian accent. Basically, there's no difference between sheet or shit, peel or pill, seek or sick. The oo sound. Whenever there's a double O or a U, Russians always say oo. Instead of hoodie, they say hoodie. Instead of cookie, they say cookie. Now, the H sound. Arguably one of the most Russian of them all. If you're Russian and you say the letter H in a word, you'll always sound like you're choking and gurgling salt water at the same time. It's not hi or hello, it's hi, how you doing? N-G sound is very particular for Russian. They never say the nasally instead they pronounce N and G separately. Why are you not doing homework? In the Russian language there are no articles. There's no the, there's no so when a Russian is speaking in English, they tend to drop the article. I am going to store. Also, before names, they say the. I am going to see the Natasha. Russians enunciate every sound and every syllable. They always tend to sound like they're commanding some sort of army from 50 miles away. There are many interesting aspects of the Russian accent. Also, last thing, you need to move your face. For some reason, in a Russian accent, it is vital to have a flexible face. Anyway, I hope this helps you, whether you're an aspiring actor who needs to use a Russian accent, or you're stuck in a Russian party and you need to fit in. Goodbye. I hope you had a great time watching this video. I will now go north and buy many sheets.
Okay, but by the way, this is from a YouTube channel called Crazy Russian Dad. Highly recommend it if you want some comedy. It's really funny. It's a Russian immigrant in America. Yes, I met him. Crazy Russian Dad. Crazy Russian Dad. He basically makes videos explaining Russian cultures to Americans. It's pretty darn funny. It's very funny. Usually he just drives in his Corolla and he has his iPhone right here, which just tells his stories while he's driving to work. So, okay. Now, that's actually a funny aspect, guys, and I'll tell you right away that there's some sounds that are uniquely non-American in all the languages. And once you learn those sounds, you begin to use them all the time. We Russians do that for W. For a W. For example, when I was young, I used to read Russian translation of William Shakespeare. William. Because that's how you transcribe, you know. It's William Shakespeare, and you go to Harvard University, and you live in the state of New Hampshire, because you don't have the H, and you don't have the W, okay? So the H becomes a G, and W becomes a V. However, we Russian immigrants, when we come here, we decide that all V's are W's now. So we say, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And all our V's become W. You guys do that a lot in Russian too. Once you learn a particular sound, for example, so-called palatalized consonant, you start palatalizing all consonants. That's not correct either. Now, those are all caricatures. And I would urge you, first of all, just get rid of these caricatures in your mind. Approach it in a lyrical way. Approach it with respect. Because Russian is truly a beautiful language. It's a very beautiful language. I was searching online and I found some of these recordings of Russian actors reading Russian poetry from the 50s. This is so beautiful. This is recorded about in the 50s. An actor reading Pushkin's poetry. Listen to this. Play? No, won't do that. Here we go. That's it. Here we go.
Я помню чудное мгновенье. Передо мной явилась ты, как мимолетное виденье, как гений чистой красоты. В томлении грусти безнадежной, в тревогах шумной суеты звучал мне долго голос нежный, и снились милые черты. Шли годы, бурь порыв мятежный рассеял прежние мечты, и я забыл твой голос нежный, твои небесные черты.
So what do you notice, first of all, when you hear this?
Very lyrical.
This. It's a lilt. It's very lyrical, but there's also this lilt. The intonation goes up and down. Kind of similar to Italian, you know. When you're listening to an Italian speaker, First thing you see that the syllables are stretched and there's intonation that goes up and down. Yeah? Huh?
We have somebody singing this song in your master class.
Yeah, I'm singing tonight too. But it just happens to be one of the most famous songs in the Russian language and one of the most famous poems in the Russian language, yes, with a very scandalous background, I'll tell you later, because how can we escape the scandal? It's always here. So, is Russian worth it? Do we even need to do it? Yeah, I think so. It's a wonderful, beautiful language full of amazing repertoire. Here's one of my favorite examples of absolutely beautiful singing in Russian language. Listen. Whose father was a very famous baritone at Bolshoi Theater, of Armenian background, Pavel Lisitsyan, one of the greatest baritones of the 20th century. And his daughters, whom he taught personally, would not allow anybody else to touch them vocally, also became quite famous singers. But what we remember them for are several albums they recorded when they arranged traditional old-fashioned Russian romances, Russian art songs, for two voices. This is originally for a single voice. It was arranged, very simple arrangement. Is this gorgeous singing? Now, let's talk about it. What do you hear, first of all? How about this? Very smooth, tremendously legato, unforced, very bel canto kind of singing, yes? Well, there's a reason for that. The traditional Russian singing, what we think of as classic old-fashioned Russian operatic technique, purely comes from Italian school. It's not really German, it's really Italian. You know, all the reason why St. Petersburg was a rich city. It attracted all kinds of singers from all over the world, including some very famous castrati. You know, 18th century singers who arrived in Russia and began to teach. So the Russian school is truly an Italian school of singing. We need to remember that. Okay. Too many. Okay, so if you decide to seriously undertake study of Russian singing, this is what I would recommend for you. First of all, treat it with respect, the same you afford any other languages. I cannot tell you how many times I get coachings, I have to coach Russian language, and I ask the students, how did you do your diction? Says, well, we kind of figured it out. We just kind of picked it out, wrote our own phonetics. We'll listen to the recording, kind of try to imitate. If you did that in German or French, you'll be laughed off the stage. So do the same for Russian. Treat it with respect, yes? Actually try to analyze the mechanics of the language, how that works, yes? try to approach it with analytical mind. There's a theory to phonetics, yes? There's a theory to linguistics. Use it. You have some great resources nowadays, so utilize it, yes? Oh yeah, do not invent your own sounds. I cannot tell you how many times I get a coach and somebody tells me, listen, I know exactly how to say Russian L because it's in the southern dialect and I'm from the south and I can do that L. It's like, we don't have that sound. You mean the one like, go down to the bottom of the hill and you have a retroflex L in the south, you know, how your tongue goes back here, it's not a Russian sound. Ours is L, not L. It's a very, very foreign, weird sound for us. So don't be satisfied with mere approximations. Cannot tell you how many times I hear just inventions. They invented, they heard it someplace and said, let's use the sound. It doesn't work. Okay? Yeah, a minute variation can alter the sound of the word tremendously. Be careful, be careful. One of my favorite examples, you're gonna laugh, from Tsar's Bride. С ума идет красавица, я рад бы забыть ее, я рад бы забить ее. You know, I changed one vowel, and suddenly, instead of singing, I cannot forget that beauty, I would love to forget her, but I cannot. You're saying, I cannot forget that beauty, I would love to kill her, but I cannot. And it's like so close, you know, but you need to make sure that you're saying it right. I cannot tell you how many times Eugene Onegin Act 2, Olga comes to Lensky and says, какой ты странный, skipping the T. I heard that many times. She's dying laughing, yes? Because the text is, you're so strange, and somehow STR is really difficult for you people. Because in American, it's strange, you know, and it's hard to say them when T has to be dry and R has to be rolled. So instead of странный, it comes out as srany, and странный means strange, and srany means you're such a pooper. You know, and I'm using polite words right now, okay? You really can start swearing on stage a lot, and it's really funny, so don't do this. Okay, finally, go beyond phonetics. Phonetics alone are not enough. Try to comprehend the meaning of poetry, its rhyme scheme and rhythmical structure. Guys, don't just read what's on your score. Pick up a poem and see how it's written out. And by the way, that's not only for Russian. For every language, try to memorize your poem, speaking it, by reading it the way it is written, because then you see the lines. And you understand how it is structured. And you can see the rhythmical structure. And the rhythmical structure will help you a lot. Okay, so what is in the language? Of course, it belongs to Indo-European family. Guys, are any of you linguistic nerds? Yeah? Linguistics are so bizarre. The fact that somehow, say, Celtic language and Russian and North Indian languages are interrelated somehow is absolutely bizarre. However, Hungarian is not. Neither is Estonian or Basque. Those three languages are not Indo-European at all. You know, Basque, nobody knows what that came from. Smack in the middle of Europe and nobody knows where it comes from. It's so strange, you know? So fascinating, absolutely fascinating linguistical exercise to understand where languages belong. So it's an East Slavic subgroup, it's Proto-Russian, was called Slavonic, and even today Slavonic is utilized in the Orthodox Church. In fact, you can pick up a prayer book from Moscow and from Serbia, and you can kind of utilize them. And we all understand that somewhat. A Serb will probably understand more of Church Slavonic than a Russian. For us Russians, it's kind of like it's older than Shakespeare, put it this way. The feel of it is older than Shakespeare, but still we kind of get about maybe 60% of it, maybe 50%. О благорастворении воздухов. What does that mean? You know?
Это вы другие?
Да, Евгений, Великое Евгений, о благорастворении воздухов. What does that mean?
The spirits? The spirit? No?
It means for good weather. It's for the good
Oh, no,
opening of
that's,
the
right.
winds. But it's such a weird term, you know, it's so strange. And also, we are really related to other languages. Ukrainian, Belarusian, Slovak, Czech. We're all kind of interrelated in those languages, except sometimes things are just flipped over in such funny ways. Like Polish, for example, that the word uroda in Polish means a beautiful woman. And in Russian it means somebody born with a birth defect. And the reason why it is similar is because both of these words share the root birth, rod, to be born. And in Russian it means to be born ugly. And in Polish it means to be born beautiful. Uroda. You know? Zapomnite and zabudьте, that's reversed in Polish as well. You know that?
No.
Yeah, zabudьте means to remember. Zapomnite means to forget. Yeah. In Czech, the word attention is pozor. In Russian, that's a word for shame. Again, why? Because the root of the word is zor. Zork is to read, is to see. And in Polish, it means watch out. Sorry, not in Polish. In Czech, it means watch out. In Russian, it means to look at and laugh at. Koi pozor. There are many little things like that move around. Okay. All right. Peculiarities of Russian grammar, and I gave you a very, very, not upset, but perplexed bear. Very perplexed bear. Why is he so perplexed? Well, we don't have any articles. That's why Russians, when we learn that articles are important in English, we go, da Natasha. You know, we insert them where they don't belong. I go to store, I give lecture. Okay, we say that stuff all the time, yes. It's all about the endings. In Russian, all the information is given at the end of the word. For example, what can it tell us? It gives us gender of the nouns, as well as genders of the articles, of adjectives. Now, what am I talking about? Is the table a boy or a girl in English? It doesn't matter. What about French? Le table, yes? It's a boy. In Russian, it's also a boy. It's a stol, yes? How about the moon? Is the moon a boy or a girl in English? Who knows, yes? In Russian, it depends on the time of the month. If it is a full moon, it's a girl, it's a luna. But if it is half moon, it's a месяц. So it's a boy for some reason. I don't know why, but that's the case, yes? And certain things are gender neutral. For example, the window is окно. Why is it окно is gender neutral, but coffee is masculine?
Is it?
Oh yes, on coffee, один кофе. You're surprised because coffee ending actually tells you it's neutral, but it's a foreign word. So it's supposed to be один кофе, один кофе.
Then I say it wrong.
I'll tell you one joke later on about this. I'll tell you a joke, but not this bit. So after the lecture, ask me. It's a very fun one.
All right.
Okay, so, but it's very important to understand that everything is gendered, yes? The table is masculine, the chair is masculine, the piano is neutral. What else is feminine? Computer is masculine. I don't know. Paper is feminine. Don't ask me why. We just decided somehow that that's the case. Okay, guys, this is something that will confuse the heck out of you if you ever study Russian grammar. The cases. Now, how do cases work? Shh, go away. You know that in Latin there are cases, in German there are cases. Any of you speak German? 4 cases, yes? In German. In Russian there are 6 cases because 4 was not enough. In Latin there are cases, but there are no cases in Italian. Interestingly, it seems that the older the language, the more possibility, at least in Indo-European languages, that you will have cases. But then they disappear. Bulgarian doesn't have cases anymore. Russian still does. We'll have 6 of them. Okay, that's very confusing. You know, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, and prepositional or locative case. Now, I am not going to talk about them too much. I'll just quickly tell you that the idea is, say, nominative cases that usually is the subject, yes. I am the subject, yes. While, oh yeah, here we go. This is easy. Here we go. Now it's who, what. Singer is singing. Genitive. Singer's dog is barking. In English, you actually do have a case. You have genitive. When you put an S, it makes it genitive. Dative case, I gave something to the singer. So on and so forth. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because you can spend a semester with this. We're not going to do this. Are you scared of Russian yet? Oh, good. Good. We're fine. The only example I want to give you is the fact that because we have such a complicated case structure, we can write sentences that go on forever and ever and ever and ever, and we can flip the word order in all kinds of ways, which affords a poet actually a lot of freedom. Affords a poet a lot of freedom. So this poem, for example, is extremely difficult to translate because you see, this is only half of the sentence. Okay? О, долго буду я в молчании ночи тайны, коварный лепет твой, улыбку взор случайный, перстам послушный волос твоих густую прядь, из мысли сгонять и снова призывать, and that's only half of the sentence. Okay, and then it keeps going and going and going, and the reason why we can do that is because we have this case structure that affords us. And if you, as me, poor persons, trying to translate this stuff, it becomes an alphabet soup in English, and often I can't do that normally, and I have to write it in the Russian order, and then write you an extra line there, translating it from English into English. That actually makes sense. Okay? All right, so now let's talk about diction and phonetics. And by the way, diction and phonetics are not the same thing. Let's explain what they are. First of all, what is phonetics? What do you think phonetics is? You all have diction classes, yes? You're familiar with India PLA? IPA. That's what IPA means, yes. And I live in Oregon, every other brewery brews IPA. So, in fact, when I went for tenure, I wrote that I'm writing an IPA, and everybody's like, India Pale Ale. No. So, phonetics is the study of speech sounds, individual speech sounds. In fact, the International Phonetic Alphabet will allow you to translate any sound in any language into comprehensible alphabet. It's very different from the way we spell things. Okay? And that's the biggest mistake, I tell you, every American singer is to pick up Russian and just think, okay, I'm going to put it in phonetics, meaning I'm going to Romanize it. Have you seen those editions?
Oh, horrible.
They're horrible.
We have this Cerrito edition like that.
Oh. It's so bad. It's just nothing even remotely similar to what we actually do. So
It just makes it more confusing.
yeah, so what I'm trying to do for you guys is actually translate it in phonetics. So you can actually pick up my phonetics, and I did all the homework for you, and you're welcome. Okay, so what is diction? Diction is actually more complex than phonetics themselves. Why? Because diction in music is the rendition of words with regard to pronunciation, enunciation, and expression. Three different definitions, yes? First of all, what is pronunciation? Well, pronunciation is the act or result of producing the sounds of speech, including articulation, stress, intonation, blah, blah, blah. But, what is even more important, in its relationship to some standard of correctness and accessibility. Now, my friends, you are in California, and here your accent is as standard American English as it gets, yes? It's quite standard. Oregon, California, basically all similar. Very similar to your accent is what you hear on NPR, MSNBC, and CNN, yes? For some reason, historically speaking, we don't talk as if we're from Georgia. We don't talk as if we're from Massachusetts. I lived for many years in Massachusetts. It's a special accent. There are no R's in that language whatsoever. You live next to Rhode Island, and you drive your car on the parkway, and you drive it in the driveway. Now, we don't talk like that here. Yes, now why? You know why? Why you've got this accent and they've got their accent, you know? You know, sometimes you may want to find a map of American dialects compared to British dialects and where immigrants came from. It just so happens that Massachusetts was settled by Puritans from south of England. And they have non-rhotic accents, meaning no R's. Non-rhotic accent. While Virginia was settled by Cornwall, other areas that had a much stronger R. And then Appalachia was settled by Ulsters from Northern Ireland. Scotch-Irish, yeah?
Yeah, like Minnesota.
Minnesota was settled by Scandinavian, that's why you have a very thick Minnesota, Germanic or Scandinavian, vowel, that's right. That's why. And the reason why you have such a bland accent, sorry, no offense, but it's relatively bland, is because when South and North kind of mixed in the Midwest, you created this accent that is the standard American accent. And then you all migrated to, in 1848, you ended up in California, so that's why. Okay? Now, in Russia, it's all about politics. Why do we sing the way we sing in this accent? Well, it's because, politically speaking, Moscow and St. Petersburg arose to prominence and became the centers of the empire, and we have a particular pronunciation, and that pronunciation became standard, and then standardized even more with TV and radio. Okay? We could have been speaking a very, very different dialect, but just so happens. It's also the fact that we have a body of literature that is written in that particular dialect and is expected to be pronounced in a certain way. For example, the most common attribute of a Russian dialect is the O vowel. In unstressed position in Moscow, O vowel is always pronounced as A. We call it akat. The akat, that? Okay, Maria and I were both akat. That means that whenever we have a word that says Garadavoy, you know, Garadavoy, all those, they're spelled O, and they're pronounced A. But in other parts of the country, in parts of Ukraine and Siberia, for example, it's O. Однажды, входя в окрестности Онежского озера, отец Онуфрий обнаружил одну обнаженную сову. Okay, so what is enunciation? Enunciation is the study of how the words and sounds are produced physiologically, something that you will also have to study before you can share it. And finally, expression. Guys, I can tell you how important it is for you to understand the expression of the language. Otherwise, you sound like typewriters in any language. And in order to understand how to study expression, I'll give you a trick. Study rhythmical patterns of Russian language. Study rhythmical patterns of Russian poetry. When you understand what stresses are, when you understand what the phrase is going, then you can sing with 10 times more expression. Correct rhythmical inflection is about 80 or 90% of expression. It's very interesting how that works. All right. Yes, a word of caution. Please avoid transliterations. Here is an example. This is Eugene Onegin's aria, yes? Here is a so-called transliteration. Now, let me try reading this. Когда би жизнь домашним кругом я ограничит за hotel. Yes, that's transliteration, and this is my phonetics. Когда бы жизнь домашним кругом я ограничить захотел. Which one is closer to Russian? Well, you can tell me which one is closer. Yeah, of course. All right. Now let's talk about the basic mechanics of the language. Did you get me my coffee?
I checked it 5-10 minutes ago.
All right, don't worry about it. All right, so here is a vowel chart of IPA sounds. Yeah, those are not Russian sounds. Those are just IPA sounds. It's very complex, yes? You probably studied it in whatever other class you take. And here's a Russian IPA chart. It's so much simpler, no? Much simpler. You probably recognize most of these. Let's start from the beginning. Stop on top. E. Good. A. Now, if you tell a Russian that we have two vowels, E and A, they will tell you, I don't know what you're talking about, because we don't hear them, okay? But they're actually there. the slight difference is there. I'll tell you two words, and I think Maria won't probably even say that you're wrong, but I'll tell you anyway. Let's say the word for grandpa, dед. Dед. Now let's say the word for day, день.
It's the same.
Okay, say it again for us.
Дед, день.
Дед, день. I think you guys, you hear it, but she doesn't, because we Russians don't think this way. We think of the context rather than the actual vowel. If we were to be anal retentive, and I will be anal retentive because I was told to be anal retentive by linguists, the vowel in the word день is a bit more closed than the vowel in the word дед. It's a bit deeper, a bit lower. Again, it's a minute difference. I could have avoided it in my transcriptions, but I spoke to his expert at Indiana University. He said, don't you dare avoiding this, you have to write them out. It may help you, it may not. The point is, when we sing, the vowels are modified anyway. So I'm writing them, I'm indicating this difference, but it's minute difference. In Italian, you have to be much more careful. You know, it's not vero, it's vero. It's not bella, it's bella. Those are much more impressive differences. Same thing in French or in German. Den versus den, those are very big differences. In Russian, not as much. All right, then let's look at a. A, again, I use the dark a symbol, but really just sing a. Whatever Lord did, whatever Holy Spirit tells you, just sing a. Okay? Then of course you have u. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes, you can't see it. Wait, why can't you see it? No? How do I move this? Okay, I'll go here. I'll skip that because you couldn't see the side. Gosh, that's so annoying. Okay. First, let's just start with the vowel a. So good old a. Azbuka, angel, Anna. Good old a. Yes, exactly, the way everybody is making it. Yes? Let's say it together. Good, like in red. That's the vowel. Yes? Место, дед, этот. Good. Next one. Okay, again, you don't think it's there, but I'm telling you it's there. День, пень, ветер. Those are all slightly more closed. Just a tiny bit. The reason why it is closed because we have palatalizing consonants. And the palatalizing consonant, the tongue actually goes up like this. And if you have a palatalizing consonant, palatalize the consonant at the beginning of the word, and then finishing that next syllable, you'll see that your tongue keeps staying a little bit higher. So, ding, yes.
What is the palatalized consonant?
I'll explain it in a second, because I'm ahead of myself. Let me come back to them. Yeah. All right. E. Good. I have to warn you about this vowel, guys. Americans tend to go more A. You actually have to go E, very Italian. E. That's right. Don't go A. Say E. Ikra, tika. All right, I have to warn you about this vowel as well. Technically speaking, Russian stressed O, like noch, is an open vowel. But this O, you guys don't have it in English for some reason, or not anymore. Do you mow the what? L-A?
Lawn.
See, some of you, I can hear it even in this room, some of you say lawn and some of you say lawn.
Lawn.
No, it's not lawn. Yeah, lawn. That's really the vowel, but it's not quite the same anymore. In American language, in American, the O is slowly migrating towards A. Okay? There are two dangers. Number one, you'll put diphthongs. You'll go, oh, we don't have O. Okay? Number two is that your O turns into A. And I hear this again and again. That's not quite right either. It's just, you have to round your lips and say, O. That's beautiful. Well, odnazve. Yes, thank you.
It's very hot.
My country coffee is always hot. That's great. Thank you. So yes, be careful. I tell you, all often confuses you, my friends. Very much. So don't allow yourself to open it too much. In fact, sometimes I even regret it. Sometimes I'm thinking, should have I written open O in all my books? Or should have I written just regular O? I don't know. I'm being technical. Technically speaking, it's an open O.
I teach them Russian diction from your books, and I use the closed.
And you're right, because they tend to open them up. But the closed though also confuses them, because in phonetic alphabet, this, you know what this means? A German closed O. O, and we don't have that vowel. Unless you're Bulgarian. You know? O, O. We just don't have that. It's O. It really is an open O. That's right, yeah, that's an open vowel. Closed vowel. This vowel, guys, you also can get confused about. Ooh, as a moon. The cow goes moo, that ooh. But most of the time I hear you guys going more like You're afraid to use your lips. Use your lips. Ooh, that's the one. Utka, luch, ruka. This thing is confusing.
Schwa, yeah.
Schwa is very confusing, I tell you why. Because it really is not a sound. It's a concept. And in every language, a schwa means something else. If you're singing in French, it's almost yeah? It's almost like OE, like cœur, almost the same sound. If you're singing in English, who knows? This is weird cream. Oh, no, this cream is not mine. Ouch. Not touching it. Poison me here. No, it's okay. If you're singing in French, it's kind of an sound. If you're singing in German, it's more like yes?
Yeah.
If you're singing in English, who knows, yes? Have that's right. Well, in Russian, it's more like It really is really close to but it's not as bright. It's just slightly reduced. So what I did is this. I kind of invented the sound. I took a program and I actually made my own IBA symbol. And I just squished that a little bit. So visually it looks like an but it's not quite. Okay, let me just give you an example. When in English you say an art form that we're all studying and love, opera. The final vowel in that's pretty much the right sound. Opera. Opera. It's not quite like you do it in Italian. Opera. Okay, in Italian it's a very bright In Russian, that's all it means. So, for example, this word, the stress is right here. This thing will turn pretty much into this sound. And this one will be even more reduced. Krasata. Krasata. Again, it's a minute difference. It's a minute difference, but I'm trying to be very anal with that. When you speak it very fast in Russian, that first vowel disappears completely. Krasata. Hear this? Krasata. It almost turns into U. Krasata. But we will not sing that because that sounds really ugly. Весь табор спит, луна над ним полночной красотою. That sounds so wrong. Красотою блещет. Something in between. And that in between is that vowel. Okay, make sense? Yes or no? Kind of. Okay. Okay, and here's the vowel that drives everybody crazy. And it's much easier than you think it is. You guys are all confused, and I'll help you say it very, very easily. Okay, so the vowel is, are we ready for this?
Wait.
Что?
Record this separately.
How do we do the U?
Go.
Okay, horrible, difficult, scary vowel. U! Okay. Okay, guys. Technically speaking, this vowel is an allophone. Allophone meaning the vowel that stands for another vowel. So say in English you have E and I, those are allophones. They're very, very close together. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to sit down in that seat. Okay, those words are very close. Yes, very, very close phonetically speaking. What is a phonetic physiological difference between E and I? Tongue position, correct. So for E is technically speaking, is the highest, the most closed vowel imaginable. Tip of your tongue is behind your teeth. Your sides of your tongue are touching your molars. E, you're creating this kind of a position. E. For A, it's slightly lower, especially it bends like this, yes? Now keep going with the tongue and do the same thing as E did. Has to do, okay, listen again. E, E, E. It's not E, stop, one more time. Tell you, whenever I do this exercise, this is usually what I hear. E, E, U. No, it's not U. It's not French, it's not German. E, 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 not E, E as in king. Okay, now watch. The back of your tongue is going to go a little more here. That's it. So it has to curl a little more here. E, E, E. Good. Now, one more thing. Do you know how you say, in American, you say up, up. Do you feel how you're moving the back of your tongue, the back of your apparatus, yes? For U, you do exactly the same thing. E, E. Imagine you're saying up, There, that's kind of right. Now, guys, it's very confusing, but I'm going to give you a cheat. I'm going to give you a cheat for which Russians may kill me. But if this is the vowel that prevents you from singing Russian, don't worry about it. Just sing American E, and you're almost there. As long as you don't sing Russian E in its stead. Because then it's really wrong. It's really, really wrong. But E, you are 80, 90% there. Okay? And I tell you, it's funny. Russian composers love to set this vowel on high notes. Tchaikovsky sets it on high notes all the time. You know where? You know, for baritone? Я вас люблю, люблю безмерно. И пыл ревнивых чувств понять. But you see how ringy it is? It's actually quite bright if it's there, if it's placed in the right place. И пыл. It's very comfortable, okay? Because you actually release all of this here. You're not pressing all of this. Yeah, that's actually pretty difficult. In fact, the higher you go, tenors will actually often modify their regular E towards the A. And it will sound actually quite right. Enough of this vowel, dwelling on this vowel? Are you getting this?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, good. All right. I don't want to spend much time on this. Okay, so let's talk about consonants. Now, consonants in Russian is what makes Russian language unique. Because we have two types of consonants. Now, you all know about this classification. You've probably seen that in your previous diction classes, classification of Russian consonants, yes? Of course, the plosive, fricative, affricative, sonants, bilabial, labiodental, dental, palatal-dental, velar, voiced, unvoiced, and so on. All of those are different classifications of consonants. Let's talk about some elementary ones. What's the difference between a plosive and a fricative? Plosive has no duration whatsoever, while fricative has length. Yes, fricative is produced as a noise, while plosive there's a little bit of an explosion of air. So let's take a couple of examples. Let's try the. See, you cannot sustain it. You're going to go the. There's an explosion of air. T, the same thing. Very short. However, you can go you can do a whole exercise. Offenbach actually has a whole duet that's yeah, just on a Z consonant because you can vibrate through it, yes? Same thing with sonants. Sonants are always voiced because you always have to have vibration of the vocal folds, and they have duration. So, the air is escaping through your nose. If you try to say M and plug your nose, you know what happens, yes? M. You can't say anything. Same thing with N. Doesn't work. Or no, doesn't work. L is here, but also has duration, yes? But these are all normal. We all know those. We all know and love those consonants. Now let's compare it to this thing that drives everybody crazy. This hard and soft consonants. The consonants can be either palatalized or non-palatalized, or in Russian jargon, which is probably not correct linguistic term, to be soft or hard. Now this is confusing because soft and hard thing in Italian means something entirely different. For example, when they talk about soft and hard C is the k sound and soft C is the ch sound. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about palatalization. Now, how do we deal with palatalization? In my transcription, it is depicted as a little tiny thingy in the bottom. Sometimes you see the same thing, but just a little hanging J glide here. It means the same thing. It means exactly the same thing. Now, how does that work? Let me show you. You have to mix a J glide inside a consonant proper. You have to mix a J glide inside the consonant. So let's try J glide. Y. Good. And J glide, what J glide is basically E vowel that has fricative quality. Yeah. E. Notice that your tongue is like this. Yes. E. I'm going to try something. Let's try a consonant Z. Good. Notice where your tongue is. It's kind of behind your teeth. And the rest of your tongue is kind of like this. It's going in the ah place. Let's imagine you're saying ah and you're going to vibrate into Z. Like ah, za, za, za. Excellent. And now you're going to say an E. You're going to keep the tongue of E and go into Z. Watch. E, Z, Z, Z. That's right. Right now your Z just became palatalized. Now I will show you a really funny trick that only Russians can do. You see what I'm doing? My tongue is moving behind my Z. So in your mind you're going to imagine ah, E, while you're vibrating the Z. That's a true difference between palatalized and non-palatalized consonant. It's not a little J glide that comes after it. Now, I will give you a cheat. If you can figure it out, yes, a little tiny J glide after a consonant followed by a vowel is acceptable. We Russians will hear it, will say, okay, there's a slight accent. If you don't do anything, if you simply say the so-called hard consonant, in other words, non-palatalized consonant, followed by a vowel, you just sound incomprehensible. Let me show you an example. You, well, to you, yes. Тебя. You sing that word, yes? Somebody else, I think you sing that word. Тебя. The T is palatalized, followed by palatalized B that is also palatalized. Тебя. If you were to say Тебя, I have no idea what that is. If you were to say Тебя, I hear an accent, but I understand. Тебя is not a word. Тебя is an American singing in Russian. Тебя is a Russian pronunciation. And we are forgiving. We are forgiving. If you say that, we know that you're trying. You're trying hard. You're trying hard, and that's okay. That's acceptable. Just don't say Тебя. Don't say Тебя whatever you do. Now let's try other consonants that will confuse the heck out of you. So, we started with Z. How about we try D and T? No, let's start with N. This is a cool one. So let's say good hard N. Put your tongue here and say na. Perfect. By the way, we do not have We do not have NG in Russian. Doesn't exist. Okay. So say na. Good. Now in Italian say gnocchi. If you're saying it correctly, your tongue should actually be on the bottom teeth. Ni. Here it is. It's not here. It's not ni. It's here. Ni. Gnocchi. The same thing in Spanish. Baño. That's right. Now your tongue will curl like this, and now you're going to say ni. Excellent, guys. That's a soft A. Listen to this. Yevgeny Onegin. Eugene Onegin, yes? Yevgeny Onegin. My tongue does not leave the bottom teeth at all. Yevgeny Onegin. Now let's try the same exercise with a D. You're going to say da. Good. Now you're going to put your tip of your tongue on the bottom teeth and curl it forward and say D.
Z.
Okay, this one is hard to imitate. Let me show again. Watch. It's not D as in Italian. Oddio. Russian accent in Italian is oddio. Sounds wrong. Yes? Oddio. Your tongue is here. And you're saying followed by E. Russians will say D. Aha. Tip of your tongue on the bottom teeth, curled forward, and you're putting it in the same position as Enya, as bagno, as gnocchi. D. D. Good. Now say dia.
J.
Oh, pretty good. Dia.
Zia.
How do you say uncle in Russian? Dядя.
Dядя.
Dядя. Aha, that's it. Now, guys, watch out, because in English you can also do way too much j as in education. Jews. You know, it's be careful. It's not quite that. If you were Brits, I would really be worried about that, because it's a lot more in the British dialect than the American dialect. But be careful, it's not quite right. Now, with the T, you do the same thing. Now, watch out, when you're saying the hard T, don't make an American T. British T. Now, you all know the difference between American and English, yes? British, beautiful dreamer versus beautiful dreamer. American tends to go to like a D, beautiful dreamer. So be careful, but in Russian, don't say t, is not quite right. When you say ta ta ta, Americans often go ta ta ta. Don't do that. Say ta ta ta. Good. And now put your tongue in the same place as Enya and say t t t t.
T.
That's right. Russian is actually quite soft and gentle. It's not t t t t t. Okay. Oh, this sound, guys. I know I'm almost out of time. Watch out with your R's. There's never enough R from you people. Ever. Ever. Just give me a rrrr. Don't worry about it. Now, you know the rule in Italian, for example. Do not roll intervocalic R unless otherwise indicated. What is this? What is hard? Corre. What is corre? Correre is to run. Yes? Correre. So if you say corre, means I'm running. It's not the right word. Or caro versus carro. They're not the same words. In Russian, go ahead and roll everything. It's fine. The more the merrier. It is usually used for expressive purposes. For example, fourth song of Songs and Dances of Death describes a battlefield. And when you're singing it for expressive purposes, you're going to go Грохочет битва, блещут брони, орудия жадные ревут. Why not? Because you're projecting those R's, and those R's sound very angry, and they go to the back of the audience while you're describing a battlefield. Yeah? All right, guys, I know I'm out of time. Any questions? This would be a first lecture of a month-long course, you know. So yes, you probably have a lot of questions. Yes.
What repertoire would you suggest for someone just dipping their toes into Russian?
Great question. Guys, avoid speaky stuff. I would say avoid everything that has a lot of drama and a lot of speaky. Like Mussorgsky's Songs and Dances of Death, avoid that. That's recitativo. Mussorgsky's, even nursery, though it's a kidsy side, but it's a kidsy song cycle, but it's so idiomatic that I would say no. Choose repertoire that is, yeah, exactly. Choose repertoire that is melodious. Bel canto, Russian bel canto is absolutely gorgeous. There's a lot of Tchaikovsky, yeah, exactly. All right. Here's a bouquet you may want to purchase, that's mine. There's also a nice website called RussianArtSong.com, that's my website, so you can go there as well. Basically what you're looking for, you're looking for melody. Not fine. You're looking for melody versus recitativo. What you're looking for, the genre that is called is romance. Okay? Lyric songs. Lyric love songs are perfect for beginning singer. You are soprano?
Yeah.
You know what's absolutely lovely? Like everybody sings Rachmaninoff, yes? And Rachmaninoff is wonderful, but not every Rachmaninoff is perfect as a first song. The lilacs of Rachmaninoff would be perfect. The bird cherry tree, черемуха, моего окна, черемуха. Those are all like 2-pagers. They're fabulous. Здесь хорошо is another how fair the spot is. Please do not sing or never sing to me again. Please do not sing Не пой красавица при мне. For some reason, every single young singer picks up and starts singing or never sing to me again. And that song is so idiomatic. It is so speaky. You need to really feel the rhythm of the language until you can really sing it well. Am I right? Nobody sings it right, that middle section. It's hard. I know, and everybody picks it as their first song. It drives me nuts. Rachmaninoff was like 17 years old when he wrote it, and he has a ton more songs than that. Tchaikovsky has some lovely lyrics on. You know another composer I love, and very few people sing him? Arias. Anton Arias, beautiful lyric romances. But I also would highly recommend people like Glinka, which is early bel canto material. That's the same time period as Donizetti and Bellini. Gorgeous stuff. I think he didn't study with him. He studied with Den, who was a Dane, I think is the German composer. He knew Mendelssohn, he knew Berlioz. I think he knew Bellini. I don't think he knew Donizetti. I think Donizetti died, if I'm not mistaken, by that time. But it's very Italianate. Very, very Italianate music. It sounds just like singing Bellini, you know, that's what it feels like. It's a long list I can write for you. Like, avoid super dramatic stuff and look for melody, look for lyricism. Okay?
Thank you.
It's a million of them. You come to class tonight. Not class, to the concert tonight. You may find some interesting repertoire. Any other questions? Yeah, and don't pick up arias right away either.
Yeah.
It's art songs. There's so many incredible art songs. Oh, another composer I love. Nobody sings him. Taneyev. Taneyev is marvelous for a Russian art song. Yes? Any other questions? Also, guys, be sure to pick a really good pianist.
Because those are so easy to find.
No, I tell you something though. I find that Russian repertoire is so much easier to deliver and to kind of get in the hang of than French. Even for American singers. French repertoire is so speaky. Your facility with French has to be just so perfect in order to make it work. Yes, no? No. French, I find so much of the French repertoire is just so pattern-like, and you're either really, really good at French or it just sucks. Okay? German repertoire, German is just, it's vast. 2,000 songs or something, 19th century alone. You have so much to choose from. But also be careful of what you start. For example, your song is actually quite perfect to start with. It's just melody. Melody. That's what you need. Drama is something different. That's why I remember I was your age, or I was younger, I was like 19, and I came to my teacher and said, I want to sing Erlkönig. And he's like, have you sung in German before? I was like, no. Then don't sing Erlkönig. How about you start with something simpler? How about you start with something melodious? Romance, that's what you need. Now, one last thing. Sorry, just quickly.
I'm just anxious that you need a break.
Oh, I can talk. It's
Okay.
fine. If you want, I can keep going. But you tell me, shut up, Dr. Belov, go away. You know the difference between, say, a romance and a ballad? Do you know the difference? Yeah, ballad tells a story. Who is one of the most forgotten but amazing ballad composers of German leader? You know who that is? Karl Löwe. Karl Löwe. You know which one I'm talking about, yes? Huh? Edwards. There's also Der Nuke. There's also Erlkönig. There's all these ballads. They usually go for like 10 minutes, a single song, because they tell the story. Yes? Now, a romance, Italians call it romance, French call it romance, Russians call it romance. Yes? What it is, it's written as a love letter that presumes another sea. That's why it has the most lyric melody, often strophic. Those are great first songs. Those are great starter songs. Yes? Questions? More questions? Yes, you have a question. I know you do.
No, I'm just taking in all your information.
If it is too much, you tell me. I can slow
not
it down.
enough.
Just absorbing.
Let's give everybody a break and a stretch before
Yes.
we have the 2-hour masterclass, and I want to feed you.
You do what?
I want to feed you.
Please feed me, please.
Let's go.